Howdy folks. I noticed in making the preliminaries to this video that I sound kind of like I'm drunk. I assure you I'm not. I haven't had a beer in a year and a half, and before that it was about 6 years. But we'll muddle through. Who am I? My name is Douglas Albion Nowell. Nowell. I am the son of a World War II Marine and Carol Landis of Pennsylvania. They were divorced by the time I was 3 years old, so I don't remember any of that. I did meet my father when I was 19 years old, a freshman in college, and I had a relationship with him for a few years. Then we kind of drifted apart. I've always gone, you might know me by a surname. That was the name of my stepfather, who raised me and did a mighty fine job, I might add. So I felt that I should honor his name and keep his surname until today, actually. This is going to be a series of lectures, or lessons if you will, about the current situation of our country, the problems that we have, the problems that we will face, what we can do to correct those problems, and a few little amusing anecdotes here and there. Okay, number one, who am I? You know my name. I'm just a simple guy. The guy next door, the guy down the street. Live my life very simply. Pretty much adhere to Henry David Thoreau, and I simplified as much as I could simplify. I like things simple. Now, how do I know better than anybody else? I don't. I'm no whiz kid. I don't have any special talents. I do have a bachelor's degree in mathematics, and most of my master's degree in mathematics was also completed. I didn't get to finish because President Nixon abolished the program that I was in. We'll talk more about Republicans and their disdain for voting and education on another day. For right now, let's just let that one slide. Back in the 1950s, President Eisenhower warned us against the rise of the military-industrial complex. And what that is our military being very strong, and the industries that support that military, like those that build the tanks and the airplanes and the ships and so on and so forth. And he was absolutely right. We are at a point today where we spend $1 trillion with a T, that's a T, dollars on our military. Most of that is going to the people that manufacture our military necessities. And we certainly don't need to spend that much. Russia and China each spend less than a tenth of that amount annually. And what about the difference in the money? Well, it's going into somebody's pocket. eliminate that pocket stuffing is what we want to do. So that is one of our big problems. Now we're going to get to more about that later. Right now I want to lay down some ground rules. The goal of these lessons is to make you aware of what problems currently face our nation and what we can do to correct them. Now, this is basically unbiased. I'm more or less a conduit for just information. This whole thing started about 4 or 5 years ago. I watched a video on the Occupy Wall Street movement and thought to myself, wow, these guys actually know what's going on. I've been paying attention over the years, actually since President Kennedy was assassinated, is when I began to kind of pay attention, because I knew things were not as they told us in the textbooks. And over that time, I've just kind of kept quiet about everything and paid attention until we get to today and the situation that we are in now. George Floyd has started an unbelievable outpouring of consciousness regarding the people of this country, and it's a good thing. It's dragging on, however, too long, and the reason I say that is, as good intention as this movement is, there are those anarchists, looters, rioters, thieves that just love to see this stuff. They will come from wherever they are to those locations. They will stoke the protesters and get them all fired up to keep the protest going, while they sneak off, go to the business district and pick up a few new TVs, a couple hundred pairs of Air Jordans, and anything else they might need, new wardrobe, etc. And that is the downside of the public protests. So in the future, it would be good to limit them to at most 2 days. The message gets across. Trump knows what's going on, and so does everybody else. Trump unfortunately is Trump, and I got a special one-day presentation just for him, why he is the way he is and how he got that way. But we'll come back to that at another date. Now, why would you listen to me? I have no ulterior motives. I am not publishing a book. I'm not looking for followers on Facebook or friends. I don't even belong to Facebook. This is the only forum I have, and that's YouTube, and it will stay my only forum. I have no need to be a member of all the other hoopla, Twitter and Instagram and all those. I'm kind of like a one-source shopping network here. But I have no ulterior motives. I'm not selling any books. I've never written a book. There is no money to be made. Now, very important, I urge you not to believe a word that I say. Yes, you heard me right. I want you to check all the facts that I present to you the same way I did. I get my information from certain news sources, not fake news. I watch the news on PBS. The reason I don't watch a whole lot of network news is because the networks are privately owned, and in the end, you're going to get the opinion of the person that owns that network. PBS is the only place that is not individually owned. So that I find is the best source of national news. They also have some commentary if you're interested in that. Other places are 60 Minutes. I love that show. Certain newspapers and magazines, but not necessarily opinion pieces, just factual pieces. So check your facts carefully. That's one thing the internet's good at. It's also one thing the internet is very bad at, is disseminating bad information. Here's an example of that. Some knucklehead saw something on the internet about a certain pizza parlor owner in, I think it was New Jersey or Washington, I'm not sure which, but the piece said that he was a pedophile. Well, this guy's going to be a national hero, drives up there and kills the guy. Well, it turned out fake news. And he killed the guy for nothing. And he's spending the rest of his life in prison for nothing. Fake news. So be very careful about your sources. They are not all legitimate by any means. Let's see here. Okay, this is worthy to mention, I guess. My mathematical training teaches me to look at all the aspects of an issue, and I can pretty much sort through them, pick and choose what's important, and use those issues to reach a conclusion. Very unbiased, actually. I don't have any political leanings one way or the other. I'm not Republican or a Democrat. I tend to vote Democrat, but only because they're the ones that are more likely of the two to do anything at all for us, the common folk, if you will. Now, coming up in November is probably the most important election of our history, most likely our entire history. And the reason being is we have to do something quickly about global warming, or we are going to end up like our neighbor Venus. And any of you that know anything about Venus know that it is cloud covered, and it is the perfect example of what global warming does. And its atmosphere is sulfuric acid. Well, we can't live in that stuff, and we're rapidly destroying our own atmosphere and water and food sources, and things need to start happening pretty quickly, or we're going to be in deep doo-doo. So pay attention to what's coming up. Prepare yourself. Be knowledgeable about what you are voting for or against. And these lectures, I believe, are going to help you along because I don't speak with forked tongue. I speak the truth. Now, as corny as this sounds, I happen to love this country. It's the best of all possible worlds. Just like Candide found when he went searching for the best of all possible worlds. He eventually found it in a guy working in his own garden. And at the time, this was just another way to say do your own thing. Work in your own garden. And that's what I've done to get to where I am today, which is 74 wonderful retired years old. Now, as I said, global warming is real, and if we don't address it right now, we are in huge trouble. Now, why isn't Congress doing anything? Well, here's the problem with Congress. A few years back, the Supreme Court, in one of their decisions, unbelievably, stated that corporations are people too. This was called the Citizens United decision, and what that did was basically put our Congress up for sale. The way that works is by saying that corporations are individuals, that means the corporation can now donate to political candidates for office. I believe it's $2,800 per person. So these corporations now have $2,800 per shareholder that they can give to our congressmen, and that's what they've done. Our congressmen are sitting there not doing anything important because they don't want to rock the boat anyway. They want to stay there and take all of this money and stuff their pockets with it. And with that comes their decisions. Their decisions are not made for the people, you and me, who don't send the money. They are made for the corporations that stuff their pockets with money. Congress no longer represents you and me. They represent the corporations of this country, and they have acted accordingly, including being complicit in the oxycodone deaths perpetrated on a lot of our citizens by the pharmaceutical companies, Purdue, namely, and others. There are none of them that are free of guilt. But Congress acted to facilitate the sale of oxycodone, and actually, along with the owner of Purdue Pharma, one guy, I believe his name's Spackler, should be in jail for murder. And Congress was complicit in that decision. So Congress is our number one problem. But there is something we can do about it. At least I hope there is. I believe we still have the vote. That may need to be checked a little further this upcoming election. But if we do have the vote, then we can vote to put representatives in Congress that are going to do our bidding, that are going to vote for us, the people, and not for the corporations. Now, that's going to take some time. Congressmen come up for re-election every 2 years because of their terms. So it'll take 4 to 6 years to get the people out of Congress that we need to get out of Congress. You may have heard the term drain the swamp. Well, that's what it means. Get rid of the crap that's in Congress and replace them with good people. Just as an example, by good people I mean people like Paul Ryan. He is a Republican, but he's a good Republican. I believe he's an honorable man, and I believe he needs to be in Congress. Maybe not with Republican values, but definitely he's one of the good guys. I think he left Congress because he saw what was happening, didn't like what he saw, and decided he'd rather not be a part of it. Now, Boehner might be another one. I'm not really sure about him, but I think he might have left for the same reason. Anyway, as long as we have the vote, we need to use it effectively. Now, here's where Republicans and Trump come in. Since there have been Republicans, they have employed a strategy of divide and conquer. By that I mean they turn all the various groups against each other. The neo-Nazis, the skinheads, the gays, you name any group, and Trump's trying to put you at their throat. A perfect example of this is what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. That poor girl lost her life because of some idiot neo-Nazi espousing all the crap that they like to spout, jumped in his car and started driving over everybody he could. Unfortunately, she got in the way, and it was a sad, sad day for her family and the American people. But that is, and has been since our inception as a country, and even before, coming with the values from England that we had in the 1600s, the early 1600s, and even before, in the 1500s. We have employed a strategy of divide and conquer. Originally, it was used to keep the Indians. Let's get this correct. They are not Indians. We call them Indians because we thought we were in the East Indies. Indonesia, in other words. But we know we're not there. At least now we do. And these are rightfully First Nations peoples. I believe we should call them that, First Nations. They were the first ones here, the first immigrants here. And make no mistake about it, every last one of us is an immigrant. Even if you were born here, somewhere back in the line, your ancestors were immigrants. All of us. Now Trump, I don't even think he knows what an immigrant is. It doesn't matter. I'm going to try and lay off Trump today because he's going to be the grand subject of an entire lesson on Trump. Why he is the way he is, what he does, how he does it, and what we can do to fix it. he's a beauty, I'll tell you that much. Now I will say this, he likes to think he's the best at everything. And I will nominate him for one more best. Listen carefully. He is the best of all of the bad presidents that we have had. The best of the worst. Quite a title. And that's not just me. I believe history's going to judge him that way too. But again, we'll get back to that in another day. Now, about Congress. I'm going to show you now a quote from James A. Garfield, who was our 20th president. He served in office only from March 4th of 1881 to September 19th of 1881. And soon after he made his quote, he was assassinated. So take a look at this. The people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If that body be ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. That pretty much sums up why Congress is a problem. That along with the pocket stuffing money thing. Okay, the upcoming vote. Any of you that are thinking of voting for Trump again, you're probably part of the problem. And you aren't going to be watching this anyway. So what if we elect Joe Biden? I can guarantee you that Joe Biden has enough oil and gas money in his pockets to last him comfortably for the rest of his life. So even if Joe Biden wins, oil and gas is going to continue to flow at unsustainable rates. And if we allow that to happen, we are rapidly getting to the tipping point in balance on this little blue planet of ours. If we don't act and act decisively quickly, it is going to reach a point of no return. And we will be headed directly to where Venus now is. So if we elect either one of them, oil and gas are going to continue to flow. Now, we we do need some oil and gas. I believe our first responders' vehicles, our military vehicles, and certain others will probably always be gas. It's more reliable because it's more powerful, and at least for now, we need to keep them on that basis. Now, the one thing that we can do that hasn't been done is to produce electric vehicles. And I don't mean just a few of them, I mean millions and millions and millions. Because the majority of our populace drives to work and runs a few errands here and there during the day, and that's mostly all the driving that they do. So by converting to electric vehicles, we can eliminate all the exhaust fumes contributing to the pollution of global warming, and eliminate a whole mess of them without building a whole lot of solar arrays for solar power or wind power. Now we're going to need some of those anyway, because we're going to have to charge the electric vehicles. But I think that's predominantly going to be an issue that will best be addressed locally for each particular city, to have their own solar farm or wind farm or alternate energy farm of some sort to keep their local citizens charged up and ready to go. Now, in the past, the amount of distance that you could travel on a charge was kind of low, but we don't drive 100 miles in a day, and electric vehicles certainly have a capacity, most of them now, of 200 plus. Tesla, who nobody can afford basically, has 250, and there are others, but they're all too expensive. What we need is a good $10,000, like a Volkswagen was, Volks car, electric car. 10,000 or less. All the amenities you need for driving back and forth to work and around to all the shopping and errands that you need to run. And it doesn't have to put you in the poorhouse. Now those others, if you want a luxury vehicle, go ahead and buy it. You know, park your gas vehicle so if you decide to go on a vacation, you'll still have it. Just get it ready to retire and let it sit there until you need it. Now we already tried to do this back in the 90s. Chevy made a great little EV1, I believe is what they called it. Danny DeVito, the actor, had one and loved the thing and used it all the time. This was back in the early 90s, and Chevy came back to him and said, well, I'm sorry, we can't let you drive that anymore. And Danny kind of went nuts, as he's prone to do. And said, what? Don't take my electric car away. And they wouldn't tell him. They gave him some BS answer. And they took his car. Now, why did that happen? The oil and gas industry. Now here's a little story for you. Back when Citizens United, the Supreme Court decision was enacted, two of the titans of the oil and gas industry were the Koch brothers. One of them has since died, but they announced on that day that they were going to contribute $400 million to enact favorable legislation to the oil and gas industry. And that's exactly what they did. That $400 million went to all these political action committees and disguised as other things where to lobbyists, and those lobbyists in turn funneled the money to Congress, and all that $400 million went to the bad guys basically, and that's why we don't have electric vehicles today. So we need to get going on those. That is an absolute priority one. It has to be done. And it's the simplest way to do what we need to do to reduce global warming. It's a very simple thing. Now, for the general tone of the future of this little series of lectures, this is going to be our theme. Regress to progress. That sounds kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it? Well, it really isn't. All it says is we can go back to the beginning of our country, take all the decisions we made, revisit them, keep the good ones, and fix the bad ones. Kind of like a do-over. The way we handled our First Nations situation at the time is nothing short of what Hitler did with the Jews. We killed them in the millions. We even used chemical weapons. We sent them a whole bunch of blankets and clothes that were saturated with smallpox virus and killed a lot of them that way. Even when we first got here, we had a certain intolerance to certain diseases that we were immune to because of our exposure in Europe. When we brought those over here, the Indians weren't immune. A lot of them died because of exposure to simple things. I mean, the plague wasn't a simple thing, and smallpox wasn't a simple thing, but some measles, mumps, a lot of those were killers for the Indians, and the ones that those didn't kill, we shot them. And again, we were employing divide and conquer, so we'd turn the tribes against each other. When they were done fighting and had depleted each other, we'd step in, take their land, and that's how we progressed from east all the way out to California, just that very same way, by dividing and conquering. So that's the first thing we have to fix. One proposal I have is to finish their monument. We have Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. They have begun, I think there's a statue of Crazy Horse. I don't know how far it's completed. Probably about half done or so. But we should build a First Nations Rushmore, so to speak. Put their 4 greatest Indian chiefs on the side of a mountain, just like we did with our presidents. And we pay for that. That's right, we pay for that. So we need to kind of fix things with the Indians. Get them out of their concentration camps, or reservations, as we like to call them. Get them back to their homelands. The Lakota in Oklahoma need to go back to the Black Hills. The Cherokee and the Trail of Tears that you may have heard about, where they were forced marched from the Carolinas and Georgia and Tennessee. Excuse me. A lot of them died on the way to Oklahoma, where they are now. And we need to get them back to where they belong. This time, not by marching, but in limousines. That's right. Limousines. We drive them back in style to atone for the atrocity that we created when we marched them out west. And all of the rest of them, all of the tribes, the Shawnee, the Caddo, the Chickasaw, the Shoshone, the Paiute, the Ute, all the western tribes, the Navajo, the Hopi, and they're just too numerous to mention. We need to square things with them and get them represented in Congress adequately, as they should have been from the beginning. Okay, I showed you one little saying. This is another one. Well, let's just save that for another day. I think that pretty much takes care of everything, at least for now. That's 42 minutes. That's probably way too much. Some of you are going to look at that and say, oh my God, 42 minutes? I'm not watching. I don't have enough time to watch that crap. Well, watch the first few minutes. Hopefully you'll be enthralled enough to watch the rest. And for now, this is Douglas Albion Nowell signing off. I'll be back in a few days with our next lesson on President Trump, one of my favorites. Like Tigger would say, ta-ta for now.